Just delighted to be here. We have many challenges in Washington right now, as you know. Maybe you know, uh, with a White House that is in total chaos, a Senate that cannot get anything done, and a House that is just anti anything that's progressive or incorporates all people. Uh, they are geared and structured to support and protect a narrow segment of this population in the country, and it is just unacceptable. So we continue to fight in the Congress for the things that the progress that we've made over the course of 50 years, and are not going to allow the gains that we have made in this nation that are positive to be turned back by this president. So I'm just here to try to answer your questions, get input and feedback from you on the things that you'd like to see me support you with. And with that, we can start questions right now. Just get into it. So if you come to the podium and state your name, we will see what I can do.
Hi, I'm Krista Rappaport, and I'm a commissioner in the Montclair Civil Rights Commission. And one thing we did in this township, we had a welcoming position, basically which is a little less than a sanctuary city. One of the concerns raised by many of the constituents, and I have to tell you that the township was not unified in its position on this. Some people were against sanctuary cities, some were for. But I'm just curious about what's happening in Washington in terms of immigrants' rights, or how you see the future of immigration policy going forward. And I know that's a big question.
Well, as you know, the president has talked about what really brought him to prominence was talking about building a wall and talking about people in a derogatory manner, calling them criminals and rapists and what have you. And that was how he launched his campaign, and found that he had a following in this country. So that is something that, we are continuing to fight. I support comprehensive immigration reform, but I also support the values this nation was built on. I mean, Statue of Liberty still says, "Give us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free." And I'm just concerned about the movement in this country to go away from that. So, I've been a strong supporter of DACA and DAPA, and programs of deferred enforcement. And I strongly disapprove the efforts, to block sanctuary cities. So, therefore, I'm opposed to the Mobilizing Against Sanctuary Cities Act. So we'll continue to fight. We have a lot of great people working on this issue back in the Congress, in the leadership. And, we'll just continue to push. And hopefully here in Montclair, they see the value of being a sanctuary city. Thank you.
Well, Congressman, we appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Congressman Payne. I'm
Good
Joyce
evening.
Harley, and I'd like to first thank you for everything you're doing to make sure the 10th Congressional District is the best district, not only in New Jersey, but around the nation.
Thank you.
I'm an administrator in higher education, and one of the things that is very alarming to me is the budget that's coming out of the Trump administration that really cuts so much of the funding for higher education, Pell Grants, a host of other things that really open doors of opportunity for people. And I know of your commitment to education in general and higher education in particular. So can you share with us some of the tactics, strategies that you and like-minded colleagues are taking to make sure that educational opportunity does not go away?
Absolutely. You know that the Trump administration once again does not see things in the way that we see them, and we are working on several issues around higher education, and the whole issue around debt for young people is a very, very apropos topic for myself. I have children, triplets in college now, and so it is. I'm learning the hard way how difficult it is to keep them out of debt. I've taken the responsibility in making sure they do not incur any debt for their first 4 years of school, and then once they surpass that, then good luck. So, but there are a lot of people in this country that aren't as fortunate as I am to be able to do that, and so we are continuing to look at ways to reduce the cost of education. We have a situation in this country where, once a young person is done receiving their education, they're in hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And so they start, in a hole that sometimes is very difficult to get out of. So when the president initially, past President Obama, had his State of the Union address, and he talked about making the first 2 years of college free. After the State of the Union, I went up to him and I said, Mr. President, I'm really ready to go and excited about that. And he said, great, let's go. I said, yeah, but can we get it done in the next 2 months? Because I have triplets going to college. And so it's something that I have focused on, continuing to see how we can address this whole issue of debt, and also making potentially the first 2 years of higher education free. I mean, we know now that a youngster, a bachelor's degree, is almost like a high school diploma now, equivalent. So we need to make the first few years of college free as we did for high school. So if it is relative now that a youngster that has a associate's degree basically, needs to continue to get, a bachelor's degree and then a master's, we need to look at adjusting, the cost of that education as it was done, hundreds of years ago. I mean, the system that we have now has been in place, for 100 years. So we need to look at moving it into the present and making that higher education free. We just have to continue, to work at it. And unfortunately, we have a person at the Department of Education now that is
Such a disaster.
probably one of the worst appointments that President Trump, has made. So, I don't support vouchers. I believe vouchers in any form, is strips away, the needed funding for other students in school. So I introduced the Promised Neighborhoods Act, and these would be grants that allow nonprofit organizations to partner with local education agencies to implement comprehensive continuum of support services around young people in communities that they are challenged with going to school. The president has also attacked the TRIO program, which is something that I support very vigorously every year. And I co-sponsored, the bills for the federal Perkins Loan Program extension of 2017 and the Student Loan Refinancing Act. So we're trying to do what we can on the Democratic side to try to lessen the burden on young people in higher education. And, we appreciate the work that you do at Essex County College, preparing our young people to move on in their education. So thank you.
Okay, and once again, thank you.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for addressing us. My name is Moretta Short, and I'm the president of Women of Color and Allies, the Essex County chapter of NOW. And I am greatly concerned about a systematic government that is taking from the poor and giving to the rich. You see, I represent the voiceless women and all women, but I've watched our government take $270 billion from child welfare and give $7 billion to the military and the rest in tax breaks to the rich, people who can afford to pay taxes. It's not fair. And that was under the Democratic administration. Now we have Mr. Trump, who is doing the same thing. And I guess because he's a Republican, we're all up in arms about it. I've been up in arms about it. And quite frankly, I'm getting sick and tired of being sick and tired. We have a school to prison pipeline that needs to be addressed. Our young men and our young women are suffering from sexual assault, all sorts of things, the social programs. We really need those in our communities. Our senior citizens need Medicaid, Medicare, all those things. So where does my government get off doing things like this? I don't understand it, and I certainly do hope that you, as a Democratic representative for this district, will stand up and fight against it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, let me just say, Ms. Short, that you're preaching to the choir in that respect. If you look at my record and my voting record, you'll see all the things that you have addressed, I have supported. So, and I understand your concern as a constituent and a person in this district. But all the things that I supported are things that you've raised attention and awareness to. So I want to let you know that I will continue to fight for those issues, for the voiceless. I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate you bringing it to my attention. But those are things that I've been working on since my tenure in Congress.
Well, I thank you for that. I thank you.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
I hope that you can gain the support of your comrades, your
Yes.
Democratic comrades, especially here in Essex County. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Scott, for giving me your time. Good evening, Congressman Payne. How
Good
are
evening.
you?
I'm fine.
I am Tanya Petit, as you know, and I'm standing here representing Head Start and Montclair Child Development Center. And if you will indulge us just for a moment, I have a current Head Start student and a former Head Start student. They're in the hallway, and they want to say thank you. We serve 490 children in Head Start. We serve the areas of Montclair, West Orange, Bloomfield, and Belleville. We have a host of cards. Where are the rest of them? You're going to get them? Okay. So, Zanaya and her sister, you have something you would like to say to the congressman?
Hi. Come on up.
Go on.
Oh, what do you have? Oh my goodness. That's for me? Oh boy.
So these are Montclair residents. And Ms. Cole, can you bring the other cards, please? We have over 33 classrooms. Each of our classrooms did cards for you.
Yeah.
And they're all
Very
in
nice.
this nice. And we know we can't take over the meeting and put them up. But we have a ton of cards for you just to say thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Donald M. SCB thanks you for your support.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So nice. Oh boy, look at that. Oh, the whole class signed for me. Thank you.
So we hope you will decorate your office with all of our children's artwork. And if you will, I would like to read just one paragraph of our letter of thanks to you. So on behalf of the Head Start community in Montclair and the surrounding areas, we would like to thank you for your dedication that you have shown to our community, especially with your recent support of Head Start and the Clark Jenkins Dear Colleague letter. Your leadership is invaluable, not only for us, but to all of America's vulnerable children and families. So we thank you so much for your support. And when you are available, we would love to have you come visit Montclair Child Development Center.
Absolutely.
So we're going to give you this T-shirt.
Thank you. Thank you. That's so kind of you. No, this is great. Thank you. Well, you made my night. I can go home now. But, you know, I just want to thank you for that. That really makes it all worth it to see those young people and to come in here and have, you know, these lovely cards that they made for me. And, you know, thank you. That's, you know, that's why I do it, you know, for their future. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Congressman. My name is William Scott. I'm a longtime resident of Montclair, and I'm also a member of the Montclair Political Action Committee. And I just have a question in regards to voter registration, voter ID laws that continue to plague this nation. There continues to be, I believe, at least 11 or 12 states that are moving still forward with voter ID laws. We know that there were a lot of issues around the last campaign in regards to, you know, Russian input to the campaign and, you know, WikiLeaks and things of that nature. But we fail to remember the impact of the voter ID laws that really had a significant impact on this election. And I'd just like to know, you know, what are we going to do, or what are the Democrats going to do to really bring this to a halt? Because it continues to plague the country, and I think we need to be doing something about that.
Well, you know, the unfortunate thing about it is, you know, that's a state-to-state issue. And one of the things that I have found since going to Congress, how much states' rights mean to different peoples. And so we get a lot of pushback in the Congress from state legislatures that it's their business to do how they see fit in their state. So sometimes getting national legislation is very difficult because the members, Republican members from those states, oppose it, and with the numbers in the Congress, they're able to push these issues. But it's really a state by state issue, those laws. If you look in New Jersey, we have a Democratic legislature primarily, and we don't have those issues. But Texas, I don't know what's going on there. They're so digressive that it's frightening what they're doing in Texas, and also now that the Supreme Court has added the ninth member, we have to be wary of what happens in terms of issues that end up in the Supreme Court. But we continue to bring attention and bring light to those issues where we feel those voter ID laws are against what we believe here in this country in terms of everyone having the right to vote. And it's interesting how the opposition party has bought into these draconian, basically, voter ID laws. So, we continue to try to bring light to it and push back where we can. But, it's really a state-to-state issue, which is the problem.
And, this is just it's a little bit of my own personal opinion, but, we've been involved in many wars, and, we want to spread democracy, but we restrict our own citizens. And that is troubling. We're willing to send our treasure to other countries, but yet we can't protect our rights in this particular country. And there seems to be always the willingness to take the vote away from African Americans, and that's very troubling. So I just wanted to, hear your opinion on that.
No, we have to stay vigilant because we cannot afford, to go backwards. And so, we continue to make sure. John Lewis, Congressman from Atlanta, Georgia, has been traveling, the country in terms of this issue. And, his great leadership is able to bring some focus, to the plight of people that could be impacted by these laws. And so he's been our leader in that area. And so we've been following his lead. Members have been going across the country trying to talk to people. And, the Congressional Black Caucus has decided to go on college campuses and talk to young people and try to get them involved now that they're interested after this last presidential campaign. We're trying to seize that opportunity and try to register them to vote and understand how important it is now to be a part of the solution. So we're going from campus to campus trying to motivate young people in the direction we feel is right. We want them to be involved regardless, but then we talk about the issues that are important to African American and communities of disadvantage, so wherever they are. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Representative Payne. My name is Elizabeth Kaplan. I'm a Montclair resident, and I want to thank you for coming. One issue that has, is very critical to many of us is health care and accessibility to affordable and decent health care. Mm-hmm. And I know you've been in the forefront of trying to defend the Affordable Care Act against these attacks.
Yes.
We don't know with all the information what's going to happen with the latest effort to repeal and, quote, not really replace. But I also wanted to thank you because I see that it's now 2 recesses ago when the House failed to vote on a repeal. You joined with some other Democrats as a co-sponsor of the Medicare for All Act, that Representative Conyers had sponsored.
Yes.
I'm a very strong advocate of this, both because it's, I think it's the only way to really get accessible, affordable health care. It's what, the rest of the so-called industrial world does. And it's understandable that there's a lot of opposition because of the stake that Big Pharma and the insurers and everyone else has in this. I'm here today because I want to urge you to really press this issue. Because even, first of all, there are, let's be honest, there are deficiencies of the Affordable Care Act.
Sure.
And they're not going to be really remedied until we get single payer or something that looks like an expanded Medicare. Also, because regardless of whether the Republicans succeed in repealing the ACA, there are many ways, even now, insurers are withdrawing from the market. There are many ways administratively that this administration is going to be able to
Right.
eviscerate it. But it's not simple. I mean, yes, we have to protect that, but I think that this is really a moment where we need to go beyond. And it's, even though we're now the party, or you're the party in opposition, this is the opportunity to build a coalition around a really critical issue that strikes all constituents, including constituencies, including members of Trump's own, voters for Trump. And if the Democrats, I do vote Democratic generally, but if the Democrats are going to reclaim Congress and, more importantly, build a progressive Democratic Party, we really need to be thinking more long-term, and this is an issue that I think will unite a lot of constituencies. People are familiar with Medicare. There's a whole population of senior citizens who love their Medicare, who I believe could be mobilized to help spread the word and try to get, to try to expand it. But I also think this is really critical to developing a progressive vision for the future. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of appealing to you to hope, that you're going to press this as you return to Congress. Hopefully, and it looks, the latest reports looks like not, the administration is not going to be able to pass a repeal. But also the advantage of of pushing single payer or Medicare for all is that it does redress the problems with Obamacare. And some of us have been in this position. The Affordable Care Act was a great improvement over what was before. As a freelancer, before I went on Medicare, it made assurance affordable for me. But there's great, problems with it. And we're not going to have a really egalitarian, decent health care insurance for all until we get single payer. So I think it's really critical that we pass this. All your positions are great, but we're kind of not addressing this big elephant in the room, which is, you're in a minority. The Democrats don't control anything now. So what are we going to do as a party of resistance? What are we going to do? And what I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that, well, these are certainly the darkest days of the Republic that I've ever lived in. This is really, really scary times.
Yeah.
So how are we going to organize for that future? We have to be thinking beyond simply a defensive, okay, we resist them from repealing, for example, ACA. Yeah. Let's build a base for the future so that people have something to run on. I mean, even the most immediate interest in maybe reclaiming the Congress in the midterms or part of it. It's like, this is the way we can make connections with constituents that maybe have, understandably, we have to understand there's a dissatisfaction with the Democratic Party as a whole because people don't feel like they're speaking to their needs. This is an issue that will speak to many, many people, and I think we need to start figuring out ways to mobilize a real opposition that will push a progressive vision so that we're going to have a revitalized Democratic Party and one that will be truly progressive.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate your comments and agree with what you're saying. Tom Perez and Keith Ellison are now head of the DCCC, and there are a lot of issues that we're looking at and trying to figure out where we went wrong and the mistakes that we made, in potentially overlooking a certain sector of this country. So I am enthusiastic about the new leadership that is a combination of, the leadership that we went through in terms of candidates for president. So Keith Ellison was a supporter of Mr. Sanders, and Mr. Perez was a supporter of Secretary Clinton. And so now the two have come together in order to move the party forward. So I think that the outlook and the prospects are positive. We need to continue to resist, as you stated. In the prior to Mr. Trump being elected, they tried to repeal Obamacare 60 times, and I voted on it. I've been there 5 years. I voted on it 15 times, and I've only been there 5 years. So it's been a constant rapping at the door trying to tear it down. But what you have to understand is there are Republicans in different states that their constituents like Obamacare.
Right.
And so, they finally got over the hump to get the number they needed to move the American Health Care Act forward. But based on what we see, it will die in the Senate. In fact, I think they're talking about starting from scratch. But even there, the leader doesn't think that he has the 50 votes to pass it. So hopefully it's going to die over in the Senate, and we won't have to deal with it. But we're continuing to push. We understand what it means, and any program that large is going to have problems. When you're talking about anything in the millions of people and getting them situated in a program, it's going to have problems. So what we need to do or address now that Obamacare has been in place several years is look at the areas that need to be addressed and fix them. That's what has to happen. There has to be an evolution, like in anything. When Social Security started, they used your name, but across a country this large, you could have 200 Donald Paynes, 300 Donald Paynes. So they said, okay, now that's not going to work. What can we do? Why don't we use a number system? And so that's where you got your Social Security number. So that was an issue that was identified and then addressed. And I think that we have to do the same thing with the Affordable Care Act. Identify the issues where they are and address them, not just throw the baby out with the bathwater. You take the parts that are working, and now Trump Care is not even going to cover people with pre-existing conditions. When the CBO score came out, that's why they tried to push it so quickly, because they didn't want the CBO score to come out. And so they passed it quickly so they could go home and tell their people that they did something. But, it's not going to go anywhere. It's dead on arrival in the Senate.
But the insurers are still withdrawing from the market.
Right.
They're still, and the problem, the big problem with Obamacare is that when it was passed, there was never any real substantive discussion about a public option or about single payer.
Well, they couldn't get it passed.
Well,
it wasn't going to get through.
This is where
it wasn't going to get through the Congress.
In order to prepare for that future, you got to discuss what might not be possible now, because now you have people. The irony is that you have people blaming Obamacare for the shortcomings in their coverage,
right,
which are very real.
Right.
There are rising deductibles.
Absolutely.
Okay? There are insurers that leave the market, and you're always going to have that as long as it's a subsidized. As long as you're subsidizing the industry,
right,
you're not going to guarantee coverage for everyone, and you're not going to guarantee affordable premiums. So the point is that because we never had a discussion about single payer or a public option, it was very easy for people to blame Obama for the shortcomings of their insurance, even
Right.
though it was better than what was before.
Absolutely.
But this was really a Republican plan.
Well,
The
you know,
Affordable Care
well,
Act.
you have to remember that they're still in the majority. So
I understand, but this is my
so-
point. It's like, how do you get from here to there? Are you just going to wait and try to cherry pick these different districts where you think you can win? Or are you going to really build a progressive movement for the future? Because I don't see, people are feel disenfranchised for a lot of different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And until the Democrats start to really talk about progressive reform, you're not going to be bringing them back.
Well,
What the Democrats have thought they could do, and they almost did it in this election. So sorry. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
but I feel very strongly about this and other issues, and we have to start thinking about creating that future, not just waiting until you're in office.
Right.
Thank you for your
All
time.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, are you in line there? Are you in line? Oh, come on. Sure. Okay, good. Fine.
So, my name is Dean Squires. I live here in Montclair, and I am very concerned about climate change. And the Obama administration took a lot of good steps, I thought, towards getting us as a country going in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
And it's looking now like the Trump administration is about to pull the United States out of the Paris Accords.
They have.
Yeah, they did do it
He
today.
did,
I missed
yeah.
that on the radio. Anyway, do you are you willing to fight to stand behind Obama administration commitment to reduce greenhouse gas emissions? And I'm assuming that you are. And would you be willing in the future, perhaps if and when there's a Democratic majority, to support legislation putting a price on carbon emissions in the future? And that's my question.
Okay. Well, let me just say that I supported the efforts by the former president, and I actually, it's kind of interesting. I'm on a wait list to be a part of the Climate Solutions Caucus,
Mm-hmm.
and the caucus only adds members on a bipartisan basis. So I have to wait and try to find a Republican to go on with me. So I've been,
Right.
it hasn't been easy, and
Taking
I guess
Republican to lunch, right?
after today, it'll probably be a bit more difficult. But I'm aware of the carbon fee and the dividend system, and have a proposal under consideration. This system, imposes a fee for reducing carbon emissions. And, I was in support of the Paris Climate Accord and opposed, the efforts by the president now. And, this agreement dealing with greenhouse gases, emission mitigation, adaptation, and finance starting in the year 2020. So, I support creating, clean energy and jobs. I had worked on some green jobs initiatives in 2015. I had some legislation that I attempted to propose. And, I actually have been working on a lot of issues around the ports of New Jersey, Newark, and New York, and took a tour, just about 3-4 months ago, and hosted the tour of the ports with the Clean Water Action to discuss the air quality, and I introduced the Test for Lead Act of 2016 and the Green Jobs Act. The Test for Lead Act I came up with after going to Flint, Michigan, and seeing, what those people were going through, and it was, it's really a crime. Someone should go to jail for what has happened in Flint, Michigan. And so on my arrival back here in New Jersey, I was at a function where several mayors from the 10th Congressional District were there. And I sat down with them and I told them that you really need to start looking at your water systems. This is going to be an issue that plagues the entire country. And then lo and behold, that Tuesday, a report comes out that they find lead in 40 schools in Newark, New Jersey. Yeah. And so my Test for Lead Act was something I proposed after going to Flint and having this situation in Newark. And so it didn't get much traction in the Congress. And then 4 weeks after that, they found lead in the water, drinking water, in the Cannon office building, which is where the members of Congress have their. So they've had to turn off all the water fountains in the building and, give them bottled water. And so this is impacting everybody. It's a nationwide problem. And, I was figuring, Newark is the third oldest city in the country. And so we were in Flint, Michigan, and I'm just trying to determine how much older Newark is from Flint. So, this problem. And then, that Tuesday, they come out with that report. And so, I support the Paris Accords, and will continue to do what I can in terms of fighting, this whole climate change issue. It's really a problem that, if not taken seriously, pardon the pun, but we're in a world of trouble. So, but I support all of the issues that you've stated today.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Hello, Congressman Payne.
Hello.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
My name is Madeline Hoffman. I'm the Director of New Jersey Peace Action. We're based in Bloomfield, right within your district, and we have many people in Montclair and around who are part of your district. And it's been interesting tonight. We just heard about the need to continue to fight against climate change. We've heard about the deep cuts to education, public education. We've heard about the need for a single-payer health care for all. And this is all in the shadow of a $54 billion increase requested by Trump for the 2018 budget. It's a $54 billion increase in military spending. At the same time that he's proposing the $54 billion increase in military spending, there's another 11% increase in nuclear weapons, spending for nuclear weapons. And in each and every one of these cases, he said he's done New Jersey Peace Action's work for us, basically saying that he's going to fund these the increase in the military budget through the cuts in domestic programs. And so I have a few things that I want to ask you in this regard. First is I want to thank you for co-sponsoring a piece of legislation that would require that the administration go to Congress before launching first strike of nuclear weapons, to have the power to launch a nuclear weapon in the hands of one person, any person, but particularly this person, is asking for a lot of trouble, as we've seen. And also thank you for not co-sponsoring a bill that would effectively undermine the Iran deal, which we all worked so very hard for, that would, using negotiations and diplomacy, keep Iran from developing nuclear weapons. So I want to thank you for that, but then ask you a couple of things. One, will you advocate and push for the administration to return to what the U.S. Constitution says, which is only Congress has the power to declare war, while we're provoking North Korea, while we just signed a $110 billion deal with Saudi Arabia, $110 billion of weapons to be sold to Saudi Arabia. which they have been using and will continue to use in Yemen, increasing famine and hunger there in Yemen. Would you sponsor or co-sponsor or lead Congress into reclaiming its power to declare war in light of escalation of bombing in Syria and other places? And secondly, there's a piece of legislation that might come up for a vote, well, in the Senate next week, who knows when it will come to the House, that would block certain parts of the Saudi arms deal so that the United States can stop being complicit in funding a proxy war conducted by Saudi Arabia, leading to increased famine and starvation throughout Yemen. And then also, I'm sure you will be opposing the Trump budget in many respects, but we think at New Jersey Peace Action it's really important to tie the cuts in these very important community programs to the increase in the military budget, because they are connected. Donald Trump has said as much. He's going to fund one by cutting the others. Oh, and the one that is of concern to people who are wanted to fight climate change is the 31% cut to the Environmental Protection Agency, which will make situations like Flint and others likely to occur and recur. So those are my questions for you, Congressman Payne.
Okay. Well, thank you, and it's good to see you. Good to see you once again. So this means you won't be coming to my office, or?
Oh no, we we will,
Okay.
we will,
All
we
right.
will, because there are others besides me who want to.
Okay,
But
just-
this is a
just-
preview of things to come. Yes.
Just checking, just checking. And while I had the chance, I saw the mayor pop in, and oh, there he is. How are you, sir? I'm well. And thank you for being here. We appreciate you. Also, I saw freeholder Brendan Gill come in. And a very, very special guest for me. I'm so honored to see her here. She has been a leader that I have tried to emulate in my public service, and that's the Honorable Speaker Sheila Oliver.
Oh yes.
Who? He's here. Oh, and oh, the post back there was hiding him, but I see Assemblyman Tom Giblin back there
Right
as
on.
well. Who else? Oh, where? Hello. Hi.
Thank you, Sue.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Gill.
You public officials hide in Montclair. You back in the back seats. They usually in Newark we come up front, sir. But well, it's really my honor to have you here as well, Senator. Thank you for coming out and supporting this effort. Yeah, to get back to your issue, I support common sense defense spending reforms, and it's incredible when I was looking at it. We spend more, on our military activities than every other nation in the world combined. And, that just is incredible. I believe that we have a responsibility to promote peace first, and, and only use our military in the defensive mode. We find ourselves, especially with this president, dropping bombs that were never been used. I didn't even know that bomb existed.
The one in the Moab for Afghanistan.
Until they dropped it. And, it's a situation now where I'm a bit concerned as well. I don't believe the president has his pulse on what the military is doing. He's kind of let the generals go off and do whatever they want. And I really think they dropped that bomb. They've had it all this time. and the president has loosened his reins, and they said, hey, let's drop this thing and see what it does. So I'm very concerned about, these, is it time to go? No. So I'm very concerned about, the commander-in-chief, not having tight reins on what the military is doing. It's a major concern of mine. I oppose the reductions that in any way would cut resources and supplies necessary to protect our troops in the field. We have to make sure that we have the right equipment so they can do the job they need to do safely as possible. And the best way to protect them is not have them out there in these wars, these proxy wars that
End these wars.
have come about. So that's the best way to protect them. And in March, I voted yes to the defense spending bill that was $578 billion, and it was a mistake because I've normally have voted against the budget, but somehow, Speaker, every once in a while you push the wrong button and then you realize that you've made a mistake. So I went to the well and made sure that on the record that I put in the record that I had made a mistake on that vote and would have voted no. But the president's proposed $52 billion increase in military spending, while reports of waste and abuse pile up. I mean, the Trump administration is promising to audit the Defense Department for the first time in history, while simultaneously demanding, a record spending increase. I mean, how do you do both? This president is just, I try to be respectful, disingenuous.
Right. And has too much, in our opinion, there's too much power in his hands, which the Constitution does not allow.
Absolutely.
And so some of the actions, like dropping that bomb in Afghanistan, sending 59 Tomahawk missiles into Syria, those were illegal actions. But there's no accountability for those. So that's why I ask about Congress regaining its power to declare war, to help to prevent and protect against those kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, once again, with them having the majority, and you would think members of Congress, even though they're on the other side, would want to have that power back. And some of them do talk about regaining that power. Several presidents prior to this have used that power.
Yes,
even President Obama did,
Yes,
which,
he did.
we in Congress felt, we need to regain that power. So it's something that is an issue that we raise and will continue to raise. But it looks like there might be legislation coming down to make sure that that's clear, that we regain that power. So
thank you very much for your comprehensive answer. And let's hope we start moving the money back the other way from the military to education, the environment, healthcare, and
Absolutely.
everything we genuinely need.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
all right.
Hi, Congressman Payne. My
Hello.
name is Cynthia Garcia. I just want to thank you for all the hard work you're doing and supporting policies that are basically human rights. And again, we're all preaching to the choir here. So I have two really basic questions. One is, what's the best way to get a hold of your office? Is it email, phone?
All of the above.
Okay. And secondly, since we're all preaching to the choir, do you have any suggestions for anything that average citizens can be doing to try to preach to the other side? Should I be writing letters? Have you heard anything that works? Should I be going to Republican congresspeople and writing to them, or is there any issue? I was intrigued by the previous speaker who spoke about health care, because maybe there's something that we can all find common ground, but is there any common ground anywhere that even average citizens can somehow, because we all feel like we're just banging our heads against the wall.
Well, I mean, I, tend to, when I'm in the office, I'll pick the phone up and, answer the phone. And, I had a person on the phone that was telling me that, they thought that I was not doing my job and representing my constituents, and that, a lot of the votes that I've taken are wrong, and that I need to do a better job or just, resign as a member of Congress. And, after they got done kind of reading me, the Riot Act, I said, okay, well, sir, where are you from? And what part of the district? He says, well, I'm not in your district. I'm in Nebraska. So, to that end, I think that letters, and calls to other members of Congress, are helpful. I mean, mostly in your district, but I mean, it's not far-fetched to reach out,
Okay.
I mean, around the perimeters of your district and talk to members and try to, get them to understand, that, some of the issues that they're voting on might not be the right way to go.
Okay.
But
And also, please don't get tired. I know you're working very hard, and just you all must be really tired. And thank you for all that you're doing. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi there.
Hello.
My name is Doug Coyle. I'd like to say first thank you for your time and service, and thank you for coming here. It's, you have a friendly forum here. Not everybody has had such a friendly forum,
Yeah.
but we do appreciate your time.
Believe me, I was up all last night, staring at the ceiling. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do? But
So my question is somewhat similar to the previous question. It's not about a particular issue. Obviously, the Republicans have the House, the Senate, and the executive office, and so there's only so much we can push on certain issues. But just like within our country, where we have people on the progressive side of the Democratic Party, we have moderates, and I think there are even one or two Republicans in Montclair. Are there any issues on which the Congress can agree? Is there hope for infrastructure spending? Is there hope for exposure of dark pools of money for campaigns? Is there animosity among the members of Congress, as there seems to be among some of the citizens, or is it more cordial and just understanding that it's a difficult time right now? So if you could just share a little bit of the temperature of what it is like in Congress, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
well, sure. Thank you for that. It depends on what day and what the issue is. The temperature, in the Congress. There are some days where, when, the president or the Congress proposes to reduce the SNAP program by, $300 million, that's not a good day. And we wrestle with the other side and getting to understand what that means to people, in their day-to-day lives, and how it would be a negative impact on them. And so, and so then we're able to, have the number reduced based on our advocacy. The 300 million went down to 50. But I mean, it wasn't, still a loss, but I mean, it wasn't as drastic as, the opposition would have liked it to be. And so, we, believe it or not, there are some issues that we're able to work on together. I think my work on Homeland Security is probably the most bipartisan committee in Congress because everybody wants the homeland to be safe. So you start out with a premise that everyone in the room agrees with. It's just a matter of what you do and how you get there. And I've been very fortunate to have some legislation passed. I do a lot of work in what they call interoperability. And that is something that arose after 9/11, where on the scene of the disaster, you'd have say the Bloomfield Fire Department and Montclair Fire Department, they're on two different levels. They cannot communicate because of the radio frequencies. So prior to 9/11, that was not an issue that was really brought to the forefront. But, you know, in that whole catastrophe, it's something they found that was a major problem. And so I have been working on the issue of interoperability for first responders. And I was able to pass a bill out of Homeland Security Committee and go to the floor. And it was voted on, I think it was 378 to 0. And so, so that goes to my point about it being bipartisan, in that area. So we find a lot to work together on Homeland Security. Get outside of Homeland Security, it gets a little more strained. And but we have a good committee. I'm on transportation and infrastructure now. It took me about 4 years to fight to get on that committee. It's a very important committee, and I had to fight for about 3 years, state my case, and finally the leadership and the steering committee saw fit to allow me to get on that committee. And it had a lot to do with my Homeland Security work, because I am the ranking member on the subcommittee on emergency preparedness, communications, and what's the last part? Response. See, that's why you need staff, because, I know most of it and he finishes but, it's a very important committee. It deals with any disaster, man-made or natural. And so I'm the ranking Democrat on that committee. So if we take the Congress next session, I will be the chairman of that committee. And, we deal with FEMA and, all disasters. I sponsored a piece of legislation that passed the House, and hopefully it'll pass the Senate. And it was, it had to do with children in natural disasters. We had never looked at a plan for what happens around children, and it came out of the tornadoes in Oklahoma, and it decimated a school. And what they found was there was no reunification program for parents to find where their children had been taken, during the catastrophe. Were they in the hospital? Were they in a safe place? And so I sponsored a piece of legislation called the Child Act. And is that it? No, that's not it. And what it did was it says that if you're receiving federal dollars, you have to create an evacuation and emergency plan for children, because first responders during that issue were going by. You have daycare centers that are in homes, so first responders did not know that they existed. So now you have to have a emergency plan that encompasses children and where they are, what is the plan if there's a catastrophe, where they're taken, and how you have reunification with parents. And so that passed the House this year, and it's in the Senate. So hopefully, it'll become law. But that was an issue, that came out of, that issue in Oklahoma with the tornadoes. So, those type of issues are bipartisan, and people get it. So that's not difficult. We're working on the Gateway project in transportation. Hopefully we can get the president to move forward on that tunnel. I was out to do an inspection in Kearney of the Portal Bridge, which is a bridge over the Hackensack River, which is only two tracks, and there are over 450 trains a day that go over that bridge. And so if there's a problem, sometimes, the bridge is one of these turret type. So when something comes through the river, the bridge turns. And that's the only way between New York and New Jersey. And when it goes back, the bridge is 107 years old. So it was, when it was designed, it was like 1875, and it was built in the early 1900s. So we're looking at, 1800s, technology in 2017. So there's a major project that's shovel ready that we're trying to get done that would create another 2 tracks. So it'd be 4 tracks going in and out of New York, which would really help that whole situation there. But, getting people in Nebraska to see that that's something important to New York and New Jersey is the difficult part of it. But we're continuing to work on that. And but there, to be honest, I have a good working relationship with Leonard Lance and a good working relationship with Rodney Frelinghuysen. I know a lot of people in their districts aren't happy with them, but, and I have to be honest, when, I need to go to someone, on the Republican side, they've been very helpful. And Leonard Lance has been a great partner to have in terms of bipartisanship. And he gets it for New Jersey. If it's important, he's been very helpful. So, there are different instances where there is some collegiality, but when those TV cameras come on, so a lot of those people play for the camera, and it gets a little ugly.
Well, that's good to hear. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Good. I'm going to be very short. I don't even know if this is a question you can answer or you're going to want to answer. But I'm
Your
really
name?
just Jackie Clay.
Jackie Clay.
C-L-A-Y, yes. I've been watching a lot of news. I'm sure everybody has these days. And I am just absolutely frustrated. I'm embarrassed because of what I see on TV. And I just want to know, what is the Democratic collective thought process regarding Donald Trump and his administration in terms of getting him out of here? Are you all thinking about impeachment? But then you've got Pence, who is worse, but he may be more palatable to the Republicans. Some people think it's good just to go ahead and leave Trump there and embarrass himself and the Republicans out of office in 2018 and 2020. So, what are you all thinking? What are you all doing to get some control over what's going on here? Now, you may not want to answer, I understand, but I'm just absolutely frustrated in what I'm seeing going on here.
Well, I would say that, I've made a statement a week or two ago with respect to that. And, I'm of the opinion of leaving all options open. Mm-hmm.
Are you grooming somebody for this next go-around? Because that's what we need to be doing. Because we can't sit around and wait until the time is here, mm-hmm. and then we have nobody really ready to take over. We can't go through this again.
Well,
this is awful.
I think there are people that are ready and waiting for.
I hope
absolutely,
so. Because we cannot do this again.
This
is just awful. I was willing to give anyone a chance, mm-hmm. and give him a chance. But we see what we've got here.
Right.
What are we going to do?
Well, I'm, forget the Republican Party being embarrassed. I think he's an embarrassment mm-hmm. Around the world to this country.
Absolutely.
And
mm-hmm. He's dangerous. We can't just leave him there. We've got to prepare and make sure we're ready. Now, in 2000.
You want me to run?
Pardon me? Hey, come on now.
Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying?
Hey,
no.
come on now.
No, look, I'm.
You're better than The Rock.
I'm fine where I am. But I think that there are people that are being getting ready for this, and see the
This is
writing
going
on
to
the
come to
wall.
an end at some point with
Yes.
the investigations and all of this.
Yes.
You believe it's going to come to an end?
Yes.
All right, that's
Yeah.
it. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
Good evening, Congressman Payne.
Hello.
It's lovely to see you other than in our morning get out the vote, breakfast ceremonies, things like that. And I do have to thank you for showing up here and taking questions without having us write them on cards first and have someone sanitize or censor them, because you've sat through some of our more festive Montclair Township open comment session, and we can get a little frisky here during town council meetings. So I thank you for that. But one thing I wanted to ask, since working in politics and media, I find the hardest group to deal with and to get through to is the 18 to 30-year-olds. Plus, everyone older is pretty angry too. But this recent election has turned off so many people because, frankly, their vote did not count in local, and that's what I'm trying to push. But since this is televised and it will be written up and the young guns watch it digitally, what do you have to say? We registered the kids, Spike Lee, we gave them the T-shirts, we gave them the burgers, and they didn't vote. Now, this time around, they voted, and everybody's angry. So I'm just wondering now, because I'm working on getting people to vote in the primary election. So do you have any, suggestions?
I think that this last presidential cycle really motivated, and opened the process up to, a lot of young people. Bernie Sanders was able to capture their imagination and get them motivated. The problem was that, in the primary, once the skirmish was settled, they did not rally behind the nominee. And so, that's the problem. You can't, after, if you're not successful, we have to get them to understand that, you regroup and you support the candidate of the party's choice. What they did was, after their candidate wasn't successful, they just went home and didn't want to play anymore. So we have to get them to understand that there's a process here. And yes, even though your candidate wasn't successful, the candidate that was successful is better than what's on the other side. And so, staying home was actually a vote to help Donald Trump. And so hopefully I hope they, have learned that, even though your candidate wasn't successful, you need to rally behind the candidate of that party and move forward. So, I really didn't want to be too political here tonight. It was really about issues. But, we have to continue to engage them and get them to understand the process and how it works, and that even though you weren't successful, this time with your candidate, you dust yourself off, you come back and you try again. I use my father's example. He ran for Congress. Everybody looks at his great, body of work, but, nobody remembers the 3 times it took him to get there, and his persistence in becoming the congressman, so that's the example that I use, the persistence. You have to stay at it until you're successful and you get the person that you want in the office. And so that's the learning curve here. But I'm just glad that they were involved and got excited about, a candidate. And, with Keith Ellison, as the co-chair, the assistant chair of the Democratic Party, the progressive Bernie Sanders wing of the party is well represented in the leadership of the Democratic Party. And I thought it was great that Tom Perez offered him that spot. And, together, I think they're going to do great things for the Democratic Party.
Thank you.
Oh, did you give us your name?
Robin Woods.
Ms. Woods, thank you.
Sheila Oliver's buddy.
Okay. Okay. Friend.
No clapping for her. Representative Tommy Nolan, thank you for being here. And I've never been to an event like this, and I feel like, you know, it's like my civic duty now to get engaged as
Yes,
much as I could possibly.
absolutely.
I'm a Reformed Republican, and I was raised fiscally conservative in a you know, and I had a lot of privilege in my life, and I wish I kept my suit on because I'm freezing now. I work in technology, and I'm super concerned about the cyber theft of the election, and wondering how much insight you have into our abilities to sort of make sure that cyber command is in place and holding up, that our elections literally down to the balloting and the systems that we have across the country don't get, I don't think they were really affected. I think we had more of a media affectation in the Russian diversion play. But what's your level of confidence that we're actually getting our hands wrapped around this, so going forward in brighter days we can knock that nonsense off and out?
Yeah, we on Homeland Security, cyber has become one of our main focuses, and I co-sponsored a letter last week with Congressman Cedric Richmond from New Orleans, looking at this last cyber attack and requesting information on it in terms of seeing what happened in that last issue. It's become one of the top priorities of Homeland Security, and I think the lessons learned in the Russian attack, and now this last attack on computers all over the world just shows how destructive it can be. And the thing that we're finding is there are different reasons for cyber attacks. The Russians do it primarily for money. The Chinese are in it for intellectual property, designs of different machinery or airplanes or whatever they're looking to steal. Right. And the Iranians and all are in it, naturally for disrupting, Western cultures and things that they are fighting against here in the United States. So there are different issues in different parts of the world why they're attacking us through cyber, and so it's a difficult job to keep up. But we do a fairly good job in this country working on those issues, and so it's become a really a priority in the Congress, especially after you have examples like this. Like we've talked about it, for several years in Homeland, and then to have the attack during the election, which is very, very raises the concern level very high. Mm-hmm. And than to have this major attack all over the world.
Right.
And really, it looks like that was for money, as well. They were holding people up. If you didn't pay the ransom,
Right.
then they would, have this worm destroy your files. So
It's a very pluralistic, crazy problem on a lot of different levels, but your level of confidence being where you are, do you think we're kind of drawing it in? Do we have issues? Are we really open?
Oh no, we have issues because once you identify one issue and rectify it,
Right.
They're
Whack-a-mole.
already working on, the next one. So it's a constant, evolving threat, and so we just have to have our people, stay on top of it, and I think our people are the best in the world at it. So I have a high confidence that it's a priority, in keeping this nation safe, that we deal with cyber issues.
Well, I live in this town, and I'm a white hat, so I'm finding issues. I'm on the good side, and I'm trying to do that myself. My last question and thought for you, just generally, is it a possibility in our future that we can get money out of the system to the extent where we can have elections that are open, free elections where you don't have to raise money, hundreds of thousands of dollars for your election, re-election, and you could stay focused on trying to fix problems like the one I just brought to you and many others?
Well, I would hope so, because I'm not
there a
that
way
good
to
at
get
raising
this-
money. So
Is there a-
it would help me.
I would
tell you.
imagine you're very good at it, but is there a way to knock this nonsense off and curtail the lobbying so we can really get to fixing problems?
Right.
'Cause
Well, I think that there are moves afoot. I think that's another state. That would be a state issue.
still a state issue,
sure,
even on a federal election.
Yeah. Yes.
Ugh. Who do I talk to? Thank you very much for your help.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Uh-oh.
Good evening. Thank you, Congressman Payne, for coming today. It is past my daughter's bedtime. Her name is Annabella Bernardin, but she wanted to come and see you and to say,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And healthcare is important.
Hmm?
And healthcare.
Pull the mic towards
she's
her.
saying healthcare is important.
Oh.
We have healthcare under the Affordable Care Act. Even though I'm a lawyer and I am on the Democratic committee for the state, but Planned Parenthood has been defunded and our STD rate has increased by 50% under our current governor. And we are hoping that people will show up on June 15th at the State House to lobby all of our state electorate to override Chris Christie in refunding Planned Parenthood for New Jersey. On the national level, the defunding of Planned Parenthood has come up under our new president. And although I am originally from Bloomfield and still own property there where you were my congressman, I now live in Upper Montclair, and Mr. Frulinghausen has not been as good on health care. And I'm wondering if behind, when the TV cameras are off, whether you are able to work with him to make him understand that even constituents in his neck of the woods still have issues paying for health care and benefit under the Affordable Care Act, especially the elder citizens who may not be aware that a lot of their Social Security money and Medicare money comes from the Affordable Care Act. They're the biggest beneficiaries of the funding.
Right.
So I'm wondering what kind of relationship you guys have that you could tell us about and what you're doing to make things better for all of us who are on your side and are willing to do whatever we can to help you get things done.
Well, thank you. And nice socks. I appreciate the question. And, as I stated, we have a fairly decent working relationship. We, are respectful of each other as colleagues. And, we just disagree on issues. So, Mr. Frelinghuysen has, I try to work with him because if you know it or not, he is the chairman of the Appropriations Committee in the United States House of Representatives, which is obviously a very powerful position. So, I am trying to work with him because, potentially, with our districts butting each other in several towns, that, might be able to work together on some projects that would benefit, the 10th Congressional District or New Jersey. So, although I disagree with, some of his stances, yet and still I try to work with him for the betterment of New Jersey. So he has, been, fair and decent to work with. And, as I stated, Leonard Lance has been very good to work with. So those are the two, really across the aisle that I have very close. But the New Jersey delegation, let me just say that my observation, the New Jersey delegation is very unique in looking at other states and how their delegations interact. A New Jersey delegation comes together very well in terms of understanding issues that pertain to New Jersey. If you look at the Trump Care vote, there were only 2 Republicans that voted for it. 3 voted against it. So that says a lot of, members understanding, what's important, to the state. 2 out of 5 ain't bad. I mean, to understand what, what am I trying to say? That Trump Care would be, bad for the state.
Sorry, just a quick follow-up. And when he doesn't answer his phone or respond to your letters or respond to your email, what should people do?
Well, let's see. Well, I don't want to give you any ideas, because if you turn bad, then you'll be doing it to me. But yeah, absolutely. I think he's been getting the message. Based on some of my conversations with him, he's getting the message over there. I think people are doing a good job making him understand. Say what?
He declined the invitation tonight. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
How you doing, Congressman Payne?
I'm fine.
I'm James Eady. I'm an activist and organizer. James Eady.
Oh!
Yeah! How you doing, buddy?
All right. Finally, a face,
Finally, face to the name, right?
Yeah,
We've spoken several times. First and foremost, I want to say hi, Montclair. For a couple of years, I was out here canvassing with New Jersey Working Families, and your township was amazing. You guys are really progressive and really just a beautiful town full of beautiful people, and I would be amiss if I didn't stand here in your township and acknowledge that. So you guys are fantastic. Thank you so much, guys. So, Congressman Payne, we can go back and forth all night on a lot of things, but there's only really one thing that I want to discuss with you.
You're not nice sometimes.
I've been told. I'm passionate. That's what it is. I'm passionate. It's not
passion can, you can be passionate and be nice and decent.
Well, I try to be decent. I don't try to be. I don't try to be. What's the name?
You know, some of the things you put on my Facebook. But anyway,
text is a really strange thing.
No,
Okay,
that's all right.
Context gets lost.
That's all right.
But well, where I'm standing at now is that I'm from Irvington. And when I was born, Irvington was one way. It was a different town. It was actually much like Montclair. And in the course of my lifetime, and I guess that's where the anger comes from, because in the course of my lifetime, I witnessed the township basically disintegrate. And a big portion of that was due to the drug war. Now, it's finally rolling back. We have, a lot of progressives that have been doing a lot of work to get things rolled back, such as marijuana legalization, which Senator Scutari recently put forth in a bill for recreational. And one of the problems with the bill, and one of the problems that I see in the rolling back of marijuana in the drug war as a whole, is that communities such as my very own, which were decimated by the drug war and decimated by this legislation that filled up the prison system and really disenfranchised not just one or two people, but we're talking about full families that lost a lot of people for nonviolent crimes and nonviolent possession laws. I was hoping that that there could be some support. Right now, the Drug Policy Alliance has a petition going around where the laws, where there's provisions in the laws to expunge records and create opportunities for people in my community, which is right now suffering from poverty, because it's like the average income in Irvington is $36,000 per household. And so poverty is a really big thing. And when there's a $1 billion industry basically on its way here, because Phil Murphy is going to win the governor's race, when you got a $1 billion industry on its way and you have such rampant poverty, is there any way that you could support urban equity, which is ensuring that communities that have been disenfranchised and been used as a battleground for the drug war are given an opportunity to benefit from the rollback and from the repeal?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm from Newark, New Jersey. I mean, which is just below Irvington. I've been a child of this community all my life. Montclair, Irvington, East Orange. The entire 10th district has been, my home. So, I remember the Irvington you're talking about, and, and I see under Tony Voss, great turnaround in leadership in that town. I've been very impressed based on the work that he's done. I think last year there were only 3 murders in Irvington all year, which is, a dramatic change from prior years. So, I'm very, very enthusiastic and behind the leadership there in Irvington. Yeah, I support. Providing, federal matching funds, to bring jobs to communities such as the ones you're talking about. I support focusing, federal resources on violent crime and not, simple marijuana possessions and those nonviolent crimes that have decimated families, as you have said, over the course of time, and prioritizing treatment and rehabilitation, rather than incarceration for low-level nonviolent drug offenders is something that, I support. I've always supported Ban the Box since my time as a councilman in the city of Newark. Ron Rice Jr. Was a great advocate of that and supported those efforts. And, also ending the privatization of prisons for profit is something that we have focused on in my office and with Senator Booker, who's been doing a great job in terms of criminal justice reform in the Senate. and we definitely have to do something about keeping guns out of the hands of domestic abusers and violent criminals and the severely mentally ill. So that is something that we have talked about in the Congress for some time, sensible gun reform. And so, June 2017, 2016, we had a sit-in on the floor of Congress led by John Lewis. And
Familiar.
I'm sorry?
Oh, no, I'm familiar. Like, I've definitely paid attention to what's been taking place on a national level. I really do.
All right.
But when I speak specifically of urban equity, I speak of expunging, like right now, since I started talking, 3 people got locked up for simple possession. And by the end of next year, when Murphy wins and everything else like that, by the end of next year, you'll have R.J. Reynolds and Pfizer coming through and making billions of dollars. But baby Tariq is going to be still sitting in the middle in a jail cell. So it's not just like I understand the whole mass incarceration thing and rolling back the prisons and everything else like that. But when it comes to this specifically, can you support creating not just expunging records and creating the opportunities, but actually creating lanes in which people from my community, people who have been really, really hurt from this.
Wait a minute, your community is my community. You talk like it's just your community.
I truly apologize, sir, if I make it seem as if we come from different worlds.
Okay,
but
to be clear,
our community, which has been, like Irvington was really lit on fire, and I've watched friends, like a lot of people that I care about and love, lose their lives, lose everything, and this has been very malicious, and it's not a race thing at all, because it's a class thing. It's not a race thing. It's a class, and while President Obama had all these great job numbers and all this other stuff, like those jobs don't equate to much. Like I recently said, the average income is $36,000. People can't live on that. And when you have such rampant poverty going around, the county can pay to fix the streets all they want. But until you deal with that core problem of poverty, we're going to be stuck. All it is a Band-Aid over a bullet wound, for the most part.
Well, I'm not going to solve it tonight.
Of course not. Of course not.
But we can discuss things that you feel passionate about, and see where I can support it and where I can't. I can't promise you that it's going to be, and I'm not going to mislead you either, that I'm going to support everything that you're talking about. But based on what you have mentioned so far, I don't see any problems with it. That we're on the same page.
Fantastic.
I need our communities to prosper. Everybody in this country should be able to have a quality of life that every other American has, and and I am committed to doing what I can as a member of Congress to make that happen. When you talk about records, once again, I think that's a state issue. It would be right, to expunge.
Yeah.
Trust me, there are discussions in the state legislature. If legalization happens in New Jersey, the very communities that have been affected, we're going to have entrepreneurship in access, then we're going to have equal access in terms of income become a discussion. So I hear your question, and people are thinking about that.
Thank you, and thank you.
All right.
And I hope I was nicer in person.
All right. Now I know who to be upset with at 1 o'clock in the morning. You should see some of the stuff he's put on my Facebook. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Letha White, and I'm from Union, New Jersey. And I attend the Senator Booker and Senator Menendez's office every Tuesday to see what, is going on with Donald Trump and how to put a stop to some of his madness. But I would like to talk about fracking in Essex County.
About what?
Fracking.
Who?
Fracking.
Fracking? Oh.
Because I heard that it's going on in Somerset County, and is there anything to keep fracking out of Essex County or in some parts of Union County? You know.
Yeah, I haven't heard of any efforts in terms of fracking in Essex County. I know, though, in some states there are urban areas that have it going on. I think Detroit has some fracking going on inside the city limits, and it's been a pipeline for jobs in the inner city, and they're hiring a lot of the residents in Detroit, and so I haven't heard of any fracking proposals in Essex County.
Okay, well, I hope not, because it might sound they get a few jobs, but it has something to do with the weather too. So that's the reason why I question that, and really, it's not a good omen.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you too.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Kalinka. I'm currently not in your district. I came with my friend Jackie, who is very colorful in her talking about having someone who can come and lead the Democratic National Party and lead America into where we need to be, one nation. Trump clearly, as we all know, and we're here, I'm sure, mostly because of it, you've answered probably almost all the questions I would have had when I came to the podium. So I do thank you for that. And I do thank you for your service. I was working in Newark for many years with New Community Corporation. And now I'm currently with Family Connections. However, at the end of the month, I will be losing my job because of I don't call him my leader, but because of Trump. And my big concern, as I'm now having to move to Florida to take care of my mother, who's 85, is that really we need to unite as a country. We need to unite as a party. And we also need wonderful leadership. The leadership has gone from our Capitol, from our White House, and mainly from our states. So I did meet Phil Murray. Phil Murray? Murphy. Yeah, that's how memorable it was. And I do want to say, and I can because I don't care, I do want to say that I was not impressed with him. I'm looking at the two other candidates. However, unfortunately, I will be leaving in July, but mark my words, I will be there in June to vote. And I think that's the most important thing we can do. We might not have a voice, locally, we do, but we might not have it. And I think voting is one of the biggest things. So I do thank you for your service. I thank you for your really taking the time and talking to everyone and answering people's questions, not just hurrying us out the door. And that's what I appreciate about you and your father. And it was incredible that we do have in New Jersey great leadership, and we do have a Democratic Party that can unite and can lead the country so that we're all equal, that we all have equal pay, and that all of our rights are considered, not just one group. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Let me just, I'd be remiss if I didn't, I acknowledge all the elected officials in the room, and I probably should have recognized a former member of the Assembly, the Honorable William Payne. Full disclosure, he's my uncle and my godfather. But he's the one that keeps me straight and on the right path. He is the author of the racial profiling bill in the state of New Jersey and also the Amistad legislation for the state of New Jersey. So figured I better do that before we leave. So, yes, sir.
My name is Stan Marcus. I'm just a resident of Montclair. I've been for probably 20 years. I'm not actually prepared to, didn't prepare a question. Just some things came into my mind. I find that with a lot of people, I'm really afraid. I'm afraid that violence is going to break out in this country. There are a lot of unconstitutional things that, obviously unconstitutional things that Trump is doing, from revealing secrets, Israeli secrets, telling Russia certain things that he shouldn't have been telling them, unconstitutional acts of his son-in-law, and in certain states in this country, the mayors and the governors are trying to stop peaceful demonstrations with which is totally unconstitutional. And, you know, it seems to me that Trump is bordering on treason, and yet there are all these investigations happening, and they just go on and on and on and on, and he just keeps doing the same things, because I really think that Trump is a sociopath. That's my own opinion, and not my own, just my own opinion, but plenty of other people's opinions. And I just find it difficult every day. I wake up frightened. So I just wanted to say that, because I think that I'm not alone about that. So just what should I deal? How do I deal with this?
I understand how you feel, believe it or not. In February, I was very concerned about the Republic and whether it was going to be able to stay together. And I had never felt that before. I was very worried about, you know, finally understanding how fragile that democracy is, and where we finally, you know, going to break up as a nation. I was very, very concerned. But, you know, our institutions showed me a great resilience, and so I have faith, you know, in this country, that it's going to be, you know, even after Trump, we're going to be all right. We're, you know, it's odd, strange times, and, you know, something we've never experienced before. But, you know, we made it through Nixon. We made it through Reagan. You know, we'll make it through Trump as well. And, you know, he's his own worst enemy. That's why you know, we're not going to have to do much. He's going to, you know, do himself in. And, you know, it's just a matter of time. I mean, if, you know, we're able to hold together and do the things that we need to do as the opposition, and make sure that programs that he's trying to defund, we make sure that we keep intact, and, you know, he'll be gone. You know, hopefully sooner than later, but, you know, as I stated earlier, you know, for me, all options are open, from him resigning to being impeached, whatever it is that gets rid of him, you know, I'm all for. So I think it's just a matter of time, though, really.
Okay.
These investigations, something's going to break. I mean, you know, you have to understand that, you know, these investigations, no one's being helpful, you know, in doing themselves in. So it's going to take time to find, you know, out, you know, what's really going on. And I signed on to a letter that asked that Mr. Kirshner have his clearance revoked until these, you know, these investigations are over. So.
Good. Yeah. Okay.
So, you know, I think, you know, it is scary times, but I think we'll be all right.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Hi, Congressman
Hello.
Payne. My
How are
name
you?
is good, doing well, thank you.
I
Maureen
remember.
Edelson. Yeah,
Mhm.
I live in the 10th CD here in Montclair. And I want to thank you for all of your support of Boy Scouting in Newark when you helped me as a volunteer all those years ago.
Yes.
And I have to say that just having known you personally from those times and bringing your children to our events, you know, it's so reassuring to know that my representative in Washington is a mature, straight-talking, experienced man. So I really
Thank you.
want to express that gratitude. Another thing that I have two questions. One, is there one person in particular, since I continue to work with Boy Scouts, all in the 10th CD, one person in particular in your office that I could reach so that we could make a visit to your office? Very good. I'll make a deal later on then. Thanks.
Okay.
And then because of that work, with the children and the civics nature of the scouting program, I'm always reading the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and I'm reminded of my grade school education that the Congress holds responsibility for the function of a postal system. One of the issues that I've experienced here in the town of Montclair, in the Glenridge Avenue Post Office, which is in the 10th CD, is that the service is uneven. And I've known people who have actually moved their businesses out of the central business district because they could not rely on their mail service. And you mentioned prosperity in our communities and so forth. Is there any way that you can help us get more reliable mail service through our main post office on Glenridge Avenue?
Well, we can definitely contact the Postmaster General and relay your concerns to them and see what they can do to help us in that respect. So, to answer your question, yes, we can try to be helpful.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Okay. And we have Privacy Act waivers here. If there are any issues that you want to bring to my office, I believe one of my staff is in the back there. And so if there's something that you'd like to talk about, Samantha's in the back. Yes.
Hello, good evening, Congressman
evening.
Payne. My name is Deborah Johnson. I'm the single mom of up and becoming, strong academic, intellectual son of mine. He represents STEM Academy. I represent the municipality of East Orange. My concerns are monies that should be allocated for summer programs. When 20 students from STEM were accepted into the W.E.B. Du Bois program, my son would have actually been attending his third summer. I've seen a growth on an intellectual level. His strengths have improved with this program. And due to budget cuts, they were not allowed to, they weren't able to attend. Of course, if it was affordable within my budget, I would have loved to had paid without pause for my son to attend. And my concerns are monies that should be allocated for these summer programs for the urban communities, for these young youths that are not going to be able to attend, that are applicable. It's a great, strong academic program that will excel these young, up and becoming people to attend college and universities and hopefully, be congressmen and senators. And my concerns are...
Not too soon.
Of course not. But my concerns are what monies could be set aside that, for these municipalities, urban, areas, for these municipalities of these children. My son now, we have to go with the Plan B, lifeguard license we're going to go for, and he'll be working, but he so wanted to attend the program, so.
Well, I'm not too familiar with I don't know if that's federal funded or not. It's probably, municipality.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is for the municipality.
You know, it's unfortunate the dollars that are allocated or allotted for those type of programs from the federal level that used to come down just aren't there anymore. And we're really trying to keep our finger in the dike, you know, and hold on to what is still there. But, you know, the Republicans continue to nip at it. I mean, President Trump has proposed to wipe out community development block grants. I mean, you know, that'd be a catastrophe for municipalities, for communities all over this country. But just wipe it out, like with just whatever. That doesn't look like, you know, anything that helps, you know, the top 1%. So it's out the door.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we're fighting to hold on to the dollars that are there. But you know, it's unfortunate that these the budgets continue to be cut. You know, in programs such as that. That's you know, sad to hear. But I mean, I don't see very much relief coming from the federal government right now. With that respect, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's sad to hear. Well, you know, like I said, it's always fundraisers, you know, that we will definitely look forward to this coming year for the summer of next year. But thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Ben Rich. I live about 3 blocks away, and I want to thank you for spending the time here listening and having a conversation with everyone, and also for all the other elected officials here as well. I ride an electric motorcycle, and I've ridden through all the lower 48 states, and I can confirm that we have the worst roads in the country. So I'm hoping that you can help us out with that a little bit, but I'm also a huge proponent of public transportation. I'm the sustainability coordinator at the Montclair Kimberly Academy, and so environmental issues are first and foremost to me. So do you see environmental legislation that you think you can get Republicans on board with? And another question, I think the Gateway project is near and dear to you, and I was wondering if you could give an update as to where that is and how promising or not it might be in the near future.
Well, you know, thank you for the questions. And yes, the Gateway project is something that, you know, is near and dear to me. I think, you know, we need to bring our transportation system, and especially to residents from the communities that are using the rail to get to their jobs in New York, and really move to these communities because of the access of the rail to New York, and their jobs have come to make these communities their homes. You know, we continue to strive to make sure that you know, the president and the administration understand how important the Gateway project is, and we're hoping that him being a New Yorker, that might be something that he could understand. You know, I'm trying to use anything to make it positive. You know, well, maybe he's a New Yorker and he'll, you know, think that it's important. Somebody stayed at a Trump hotel or something, I don't know. But you know, we continue to push, and some days we see good signs and looks promising, and then other days, you know, we'll hear bad news. So it's, you know, with this administration, you don't know one day to the next where you stand, you know, in terms of getting these projects moved forward. You know, so we continue to push, and we've been working together as a delegation, and you know, have even tried to have Governor Christie use his clout, or, you know, whatever, with the president. And so, you know, we continue to try to push that project. In terms of environmental issues, we're just trying to hold on to the EPA.
Yeah, I follow their Facebook page.
If they had their way, they'd abolish it. And so, I don't see any real progress being made. We just backed out of the Paris Accords today. So, it's bleak on the environmental level, but we continue to, advocate and push and try to hold the fort in terms of, getting them to understand how important, some of these issues are. Clean water and clean air. I mean, my goodness, I don't understand how you could be against trying to, make sure that there's decent water to drink and the air quality is better. In Newark, we have one of the highest rates of pediatric asthma in the nation, and so air quality is something that I've been working on since my time at the city council in Newark, and around the port and the trucks, and those issues of the carbon footprint there, and all those. So it's something that I've worked on, but we're having a difficult time with this administration in terms of environmental issues. It's really been a struggle.
Thanks.
So.
Well, yeah, I hope with the new governor we'll have a big wind farm sprouting up almost immediately when that happens. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, let me just say it's 9:10, and we were supposed to end at 8:30. So, but I wanted to make sure that everybody had an opportunity to ask their question. Let me just say, I want to thank you for being so supportive of me. I get the letters from your community thanking me for my work, so it makes me feel good that I know that I'm doing a job that's acceptable to you. I'm never going to blow you away with my oratory skill, but you can rest assured that my constituent service and my advocacy for you in the House of Representatives is my main goal. And I just want to thank you for allowing me to be your representative. It is a true honor to be one of 435 people in this country and that is a member of Congress. So I do not take it lightly. I used to tease I'm way above my pay grade, but I have found it to be very rewarding and a position that just allows me to help people, and that is my goal. And it always has been the quality of life for my community in this country. And I want to thank my staff for helping me and making me look good and making sure that our constituent service is second to none. And that is one of my major goals. Like the Washington side of it and the legislation is all great, but I want my constituent service to be what I'm known for. And so we strive every day to make sure that our constituents are served in the manner that they were used to the 23 years prior to me sitting in this seat. So thank you very much. And, if the mayor would like to come up and close out, I thank him for allowing me to be in the town and,
Good evening.
Good evening.
Congressman Payne and your staff, I want to thank you for coming to Montclair this evening and for really enlightening discussion and for hanging in there and answering all the questions thoroughly, and for the preparation that you made in coming here and doing such a great job. I'm honored to serve this community as its mayor, and I'm honored that you are my congressman and the congressman for this community. you're on the right side of the issues, and we admire you for that and respect you for that, and we pledge our support for you going forward and doing whatever we can to make sure that you're as effective as you can be. I just want to say, too, that I can't imagine how proud your dad must be that his son has stepped into the gap and is doing such a wonderful job and continuing with the great Payne legacy in this district and in this state and this country. So
Thank you.
You're doing a fine job. Tough shoes to fill.
Yes.
But you're doing an outstanding job. And again, our pledge to you is we'll do whatever we can to make you as effective as you can be. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, and have a good evening.